Hello, Melissa Crook here from the F.E.E.L podcast. I've got some ways to engage for you to consider today as you're listening to our episode, Saying No with Confidence and Without Guilt with Stacey Olson. Think about if there is a balance between the different areas of your life. How can you maintain this balance or create more clear alignments? Remember that self care isn't selfish. If you want to prioritize those you love, taking care of yourself always allows you to show up for them the way that you want to, fully present, fully refreshed, and just allows you to be the authentic person you want to be, but it requires making sure our lives are in alignment. And we're going to talk a lot about that today with Stacey Olson, and we hope this gives you some things to think about as we're going through this episode together. Thanks so much for being with us. Hello, Melissa Crook here from the F.E.E.L podcast. I've got some ways to engage for you to consider today as you're listening to our episode, Saying No with Confidence and Without Guilt with Stacey Olson. Think about if there is a balance between the different areas of your life. How can you maintain this balance or create more clear alignments? Remember that self-care isn't selfish. If you want to prioritize those you love, taking care of yourself always allows you to show up for them the way that you want to, fully present, fully refreshed, and just allows you to be the authentic person you want to be, but it requires making sure our lives are in alignment. And we're going to talk a lot about that today with Stacey Olson, and we hope this gives you some things to think about as we're going through this episode together. Thanks so much for being with us.
Finding empowerment, embracing layers, yeah. We get to feel.
Hello, and welcome back to the F.E.E.L podcast this week. I have a new friend here today. Stacey Olson reached out to me via our contact form on our website. And I really love those reach outs because they give us a chance to meet some people that heard about us in a different way. I love having our friends from Podmatch. Obviously, I love having people I know in my personal life, but it's just another branch that allows us to get in contact with people that maybe we wouldn't have ever connected with otherwise. And Stacey is one of those people today. She's going to have so much to say about our talking points, and you're going to understand why as we go through them and the resource that she has available to you now via that. But Stacey's journey, unfortunately, is not unlike a lot of ours, where she just got to a point in her own life of, I've got to do something different. This way of existing is not working for me anymore. And I told her before we started recording, my goal is that someday enough people will listen to these conversations that they will start putting this framework in place from the beginning. And I'm talking like 18 to 22 to 30-year-olds who are young and out there. Use this framework from the get-go. Don't wait until you're, get 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road and realize, hold on, I haven't been taking care of myself. I haven't been saying no to anything, on and on and on. So Stacey is familiar with this path, and we're here to help you if you're on that path, get off it with this framework, and also help those younger ones around you and have this as a tool that's available to them so they don't have to hit these walls that we run into. Stacey describes herself as present, optimistic, and with integrity. She believes in walking the talk. And so all of these things that you're going to hear today, Stacey and I do this. We don't just write and talk about these things. These are an active part of our life to help us stay in alignment, healthy, authentic, whole, not burned out. And that is such an important piece of this work, is people will follow what they see. And if what you say and what you do are not in alignment, then it lacks integrity and you're not going to be able to get people to really buy into this thing, no matter how passionately you talk about it. So I love that Stacey mentioned that. Stacey Olson, welcome to the F.E.E.L podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here and sharing with your audience and everyone who's listening.
I'm happy to do it. Okay, let's get right into it. Talk to me about prioritizing self-care in your life. This is something you had to get to realize, hold on a minute. I've not been filling my own cup. So talk to me about this journey of getting to that point and having that realization.
Yeah. So it was about 10 years ago now, where I was working 60, 70, 80 hour, the odd 80-hour work week, which now I'm like, I don't even know how I did that because I've trained myself out of that.
Yeah.
And 3 kids at home, teenager and 2 younger ones, and marriage, and you just do it, right? You show up each day, you do your best. But I was really, really struggling on the inside with worry about what people will think, or feeling guilty about letting people down, or just spread so thin. Looked pretty good on the outside. I could show up pretty good in my work.
Yeah.
But my work got the best side of me and my family got the worst side of me. I had very little oomph and energy left, or presence. I'm very present now. I wasn't really present back then.
Yeah.
And after operating that way for a number of years, it got to the point where it was hurting my connection with my husband and kids. I knew something had to change. And there were a few things that led to it, but there was this moment where I was like, something has to change. And so I stopped working outside of business hours cold turkey. Like, I'm going from the 60, 70-hour work weeks to I'm going to a regular work week. I have no idea how this will happen. I thought I'm just going to tank my career. And I had a demanding career, seen as a high performer, did very well, bright future. I thought I'm going to tank that. But I need to be there for my family, and I want to feel better. I don't want to feel like crap each day.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of my personal time back. And the unexpected thing that happened through that is I started to perform even better, which I didn't anticipate that. And I didn't understand the science and research, which I'm trained in now. I didn't understand the time. I was just figuring it out. But I started to perform better because I started to actually prioritize my day. I learned how to say no in a way that kept my relationships strong. I was more focused on the right things and let go of those things that weren't the best use of my time, or, delegated to my team, where before I would just take it all on myself. And it really started to open my eyes up to, oh, wow, I could be a lot more balanced in my life, and I can perform even better with that. And so I did. I got a promotion at work, and things were really good. And I was really happy with that. And then it got to the point. So I prioritized, to your question of self-care, protecting my time and energy, having boundaries between my work and personal life, prioritizing my own needs. That I learned that, and that was good. And again, perform better from it.
Yeah.
Another part that I hadn't learned until after I left my corporate career was how to calm my busy mind. And that's another part of self-care. When we think of self-care, a lot of times it's like, what are the things we're doing? It's like, what helps calm your mind? And so while I had better boundaries and I prioritized better and I said no, I was still in my head a lot. I was still worried about what will people think, or feeling guilty that I was saying no to someone, and carrying that mental load, which a lot of, especially women do. And moms carry that extra mental load of trying to keep track of it all in your mind. And so when I left my corporate career, that was the piece I figured out after. And a big question I was driven by is, how do we be our best and feel our best, even with all the demands and expectations? Because that's not going away. So what can we do for ourselves? And so part of my self-care routine was those boundaries with my time, but also what are the things to help take care of my stress and take care of my mind? And that looks different for different people, right? Like there's an endless amount of good things we can do for ourselves. it's really, and when I work with clients and talk about, it's like figuring out what works for you, what helps you, not what you see other people do, like what helps you. And so I really embrace that, even though it was different than others might be doing it. And prioritize here, the few things in my day and my week that help me to feel and be my best, including boundaries with my time. And that really, opened me up to helping others in this space, and also to be more present in my own life and have that strong connection with my husband and kids and have time and space for me too. And, learning that. And I think for people listening, often we can put ourselves last, so you matter too.
Yeah.
And so making yourself a priority is important, because when you do, you can also, not only do you feel better, you can also show up for others in a better way.
Exactly.
And that was a big thing I learned, is that there's a difference between, I think we're all doing our best.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between doing our best and being our best self. And a lot of that stress and overwhelm and being exhausted, that hides our best. We get grumpy with the people we love. We are distracted when we're at work. And so clearing some of that. And I always say, like, instead of sacrificing our career and our family, let's sacrifice the overwhelm and the worry and the overworking, because that hides a lot of what our best is. So yeah, so that's kind of where I got to prioritizing my own self-care, and then inviting others to do that as well, so they can be more balanced and less stressed and perform better too, because we perform better when we feel better.
We do. You hit on a couple of really good points about, I had a feeling even before you said it, I'm like, I bet she showed up clear-minded and as a better employee when she started working less, because we don't take that into account. But if you stop for 5 minutes and think about it, of course, I'm more rested. My head is clear. I've given my time and space away. So many times when we can clear our minds and clear our heads and do those things and spend time in areas that nourish us with the people that we love, all of those things help us come back at our workspaces more clear-minded, with better, fresher ideas, more organized time, because, okay, I've only got so many times in a day. When we don't live by some kind of a calendar or a schedule, it allows for us to just keep going and just keep going and just keep going. Whereas if we build a structure that we are asking ourselves to live to, then it protects that time. And you realize, wait a minute, I can be very efficient here if I'm asking that of myself, and everybody wins when I do that. I'm a better employee. I'm a better leader. I'm a better teammate, definitely a better parent and partner and friend and daughter and all of those things. And so we're in this go, go, go society, and we wear this, I work 70 to 80 hours a week, especially when we're like in our 20s and 30s, like a mantra. And it's like, no, you're just going to burn yourself out. And I know a lot of people that did that early on, and they wore it like a badge of honor, and it didn't lead anywhere good in the long run. There was always a point that it didn't work anymore. Something happened. There was some kind of a breaking point. And yeah, so I'm so glad you pointed that out. I think that's so important, so powerful to think about. And also, like you said, prioritizing our wellness, everybody wins. We get this idea that we're supposed to sacrifice ourselves from the time we're little kids, especially as girls, and put everybody else first and take care of everybody else. Well, who's taking care of you? And what kind of a person, if you're a child or a partner or a coworker, what kind of person do you want taking care of you? You want someone who's energized and happy to be there and content, not that's irritable and crabby and it feels like an obligation, not something that you want to be present in their doing. So we really have to flip our script on that. And you spoke to all of those things so well. And this really goes nicely into, because you've said it already, confidently setting boundaries. That's a part of our self-care. Protecting our time, protecting our space, deciding what we're going to say yes and no to, but also getting over that guilt thing. You talked about that guilt thing hanging in there. I think we're that's wired into us early on, especially when we make such a big shift where it's like, nope. I mean, you probably in some ways felt like you're working part-time going from 80 to 40. I mean, that's a big change, but also the other people around you have to get used to that change. And you not only have to set the boundary, you've got to communicate it and live by it. What was it like to do that when you made that shift, to communicate that to people and let them know and start actually living it out? And how much pushback did you get?
So one thing, when I decided to set that boundary, and this is a part of, I believe, what made me effective in my role as a leader, is I'm very, very mindful of my communication. And so when I set that boundary, it was, okay, I'm going to go communicate this. And how can I do it in a confident way, in a calm way, in a way that helps still instill confidence in the other person that I got this, even though, at the time, maybe I didn't quite feel like I had it. But so that was something. And two of my most important stakeholders probably work the most in the company. And so going to them, before I went into that conversation, I thought about, okay, what is that boundary I want to set? And coming at it from this place of, who do I want to be? Who do I want to be as a leader? Who do I want to be as a parent? Who do I want to be in my life? Okay, if I want to be more balanced and I still want to be an effective team player and leader, what would I do? Okay, well, I wouldn't be working all those hours if I was going to do it. I would thoughtfully communicate what my boundaries are. I'd let people know what I'm up to. And so I went into those conversations being very, hey, I'm going to be prioritizing my personal time. I'm confident we can still be successful. I've already thought through some meetings or some things that we can change or we can delegate to your team. And I believe, we're going to be able to still be really effective at this. And it's about doing more of the things that matter and less of the things that don't.
Yeah.
And that's how I went into the conversations. Not, I'm so overwhelmed and I can't do this. And my marriage is, not great right now. And I think that's okay to say those things too. You don't want to, you want to be open and share your struggles. I'm just sharing that was my thing, is that I'm very intentional about how I communicate it. And I wanted people to still have confidence that I'm going to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
And because I think we all know that we do some things that waste our time, or maybe not the best use of our time, or we could let our team members handle some stuff. And so that's an angle I came from it. And then when I even communicated to my team, because one thing is I quickly realized when I put that, okay, I'm done at 5. That was about just leave at 5. That's what we're doing. I quickly realized, okay, I need to put a time block during my workday to have some time to get my own work done. It wasn't going to work to be in meetings all day long anymore because I took away the option of doing it in the evening. So one thing that now when I teach boundaries and work with people on boundaries, it's this idea of carving out your personal time first, which is so counterintuitive.
It really is.
It's so, I get it. I understand it. I still, sometimes when I put a new boundary in, I'm like, is this really going to work? But it forces you to make different choices. It protects your time and energy, but it also forces you to start to get clear on what is important and let go of some of the things that aren't. And so if I had waited to get my workload under control, I probably would have kept saying yes to too many things. I wouldn't have delegated as much. So by starting with that, you change the game you're playing.
Yeah.
And it starts to drive different decisions. And so that's where, when I went into those conversations, it was, okay, I'm going to be more focused on the things that matter. But when I put that time block in my calendar, a 2-hour time block each day was kind of the next boundary I quickly realized I had to put in place. I told my team, hey, I'm going to be shutting my door. I care about you guys. If it's an emergency, come get me. I'm just going to have some time to focus. I encourage you guys to do the same. And then this is where I'm there. If it's emergency, come knock on my door because I'm still here for you guys. But just, when you give, we got to be mindful not to over explain ourselves. But when you can give a little bit of context, I found giving a little bit of context on why you're closing your door, why you might not be responding to emails in the evening, especially if it's different than how you operated before, then people can know what you're up to. So so to that question, it's very mindful of communicating it. And then the other piece, like you said, is actually following through. To go, and that at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh no, I can't, just leave. Just leave, figure it out. And so we create that new habit by doing it. And it feels messy and it feels uncomfortable, but then you create that new habit and it, became a part of my everyday where I don't have to think about that anymore.
Yeah. And it takes time when you make a change like that too.
Absolutely.
And that following up piece is so important because people are watching. They've heard your words, but now they're watching to see if you're actually living by that. And if you don't live by it after you've communicated, then they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't that serious. And they'll start impeding on those boundaries again. And so it's so important. I love that you brought up the communication piece. So many things when it comes to boundaries, expectations, living by our value system, and we'll get to those things in a minute, but they're all tied in. If you know how to communicate them well, communicate them calmly, confidently. I have a plan. I'm not doing this on a whim. And this is my why behind it. It's going to be really hard for people to be mad about you wanting to prioritize your family and your relationships and giving you the opportunity to show them that you have an effective plan in place to do that. I think so many times we'll set these things and then we just go into it and we don't necessarily effectively communicate, or we don't get into, and we don't want to over explain. I'm not saying that because women are over explaining champions of the world when they're trying to, they feel like they got to justify everything. But giving that simple context behind it, it just builds that support and understanding. So thank you for that. That was really good and such an important component of these being effective and long lasting and respected by others. I mean, so all those pieces matter so much with this. All right, taking care of our emotional health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health, sexual health, all of those health pieces, when you're going 80 to 90 hours a week in the office, or 60 plus, if you're doing anything honestly over 50, I'm going to ask you to step back and take a look and see if that's really necessary. Because I can tell you right now, it's not good for your health. When you're doing that, it takes a toll on all of those spaces and places of your health. You talked about having to take time to settle your mind. Like you set these initial things in place, but then you had to move into another season of, okay, now I've got to just move into this space of settling my mind. So talk to me about this emotional, mental, physical, spiritual health connection for you.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is they're all connected.
Yeah.
When we take better care of our physical health, we're mentally in a better place. When we take care of our mental health, we're in it helps our body. And so they are connected. And that, and back to your original, what kind of pushback I got with the boundaries was that, people are like, okay, great. And then, okay, can you work on the weekend? Like the next breath that would come out. And so that's the following through, sticking to it piece. Yeah. To be like, hey, we talked about this. I will look at it this weekend. And why I bring that up again is because it is connected. And the looser your boundaries are, the more stressed we tend to be mentally, physically. And so understanding that there's that connection, and that, like you said earlier, our minds and bodies need space to recharge. We were not meant to be on 24/7. And where you said, hey, if you're over working 50 hours, it's not great for you. Yeah, there's tons of research that supports that. Even when you work more than 40 hours, your productivity goes down. It affects you because we need space to recharge. We need space to think clearly. We need space to catch our breath when we're feeling overwhelmed. which is absolutely normal if you feel that way. I still feel overwhelmed. And that's a big shift that I've made is when I used to get overwhelmed, for me, that used to be a cue of push harder. I got to work harder. I can't take a break until I get it all done. Where now I've completely switched it to, okay, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, all right, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Okay, what do I really need right now? And that's where when we start to honor that and go, okay, I need a breath. I need to take a walk. I need to step away for a few minutes from this. I need to talk to someone. I need to focus on one thing instead of the 10 things I got on the go. And that helps you to start to take care of your mental well-being, but really overall. And like I said, you take care of one, you see the gains in another. And so me originally setting those boundaries and stop overworking, that helped for sure. And then like you said, that next season, and then you're like, okay, what am I going to work on next? Learning to calm my mind. That made a huge difference in being able to stay more, it was easier to, because that's one thing too, that people, don't realize is we spend so much time and mental energy on worry, feeling overwhelmed, feeling guilty. So when you learn to calm your mind, not only can you feel better, is that we actually free up a lot of time and mental energy that gets expended in that. And that was a big learning for me. So so to your question, it's all connected. Anything we can do to help ourselves, fill our gas tank, help us to feel better, honor what we need, we're going to think better. We're going to show up in a better way for people. Is it perfect? No. Like we all have not great moments or not great days. It's about being able to go, okay, what do I really need right now? And starting to make that part of your everyday rather than waiting until you're so burned out that you actually do something that helps. Or what other people also do is they do these things that help their self-care and their mind. But then when life gets really busy or hard, they drop those very things when that's what can help you go through and navigate that stressful situation better. So, and I share that. That was very hard one, wisdom. It took me a long time to learn that lesson. But the more you can just accept that and make it part of your day to day, it does get a lot easier to how you show up in your day, but also navigate the tougher times too.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. I have struggled, and I even have an example from this morning where I actually made the right choice, but you get in your head, if I get all these things off my checklist, I'll be less stressed and I won't be worried. But I can't be settled. I can't feel calm until I do all these things. Instead of just getting up in the moment, walking around the block, going to get the mail, grabbing some, something from the break room, getting some water, doing a little breathing, and then like, oh, okay, I've calmed my system. Those things are still there. Nobody's on fire. And now I've got the clear mind I need to actually do that. So, but it takes time. Like this morning, I was going through trying to get emails answered and respond to guest reach outs and all these things. And I was and I was all of a sudden notice, I'm like, I have been clenching my jaw as I've been doing this. Okay. Well, I've only got a few more. No, I'm going to get up. And and I work from home. I'm going to get up. I'm going to go unload the dishwasher. I'm going to get some more water. I'm going to make myself some ginger tea to settle my stomach. And I got up and I did all those things, came back 20, 30 minutes later, refreshed, resettled, answered the rest of those emails, and then came on and started, got ready to start preparing for our conversation. I was like, oh, that actually works. And I was more responsive in a more thoughtful way. And I wasn't just trying to get them done so I could feel better. But I think that's what we do to ourselves. So I'm so glad you shared that example. And it takes time. We got to be patient with ourselves. And just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong. And I think sometimes we will, I'm feeling guilty. Oh, I don't know. I'm feeling unsure. I'm feeling uneasy. Of course you are. Your system's not used to you operating this way. And so it's going to take some time for it to learn this new, healthier way. And over time, it's going to realize, oh, wait a minute, this is working. This is how we operate. The other thing too, and I can so relate to the whole thoughts and calming the mind piece. We treat our thoughts as automatic truth rather than sifting through and actually like, is that actually true? Or is that a narrative that I've been living by that I need to unpack and put away and not allowed to drive me or get to me anymore? So also taking that time as you're calming and settling, addressing those narratives that are running through your head that need to be readdressed and reanalyzed, and not automatically assigning truth. Oh, I'm feeling guilty. That must mean I'm doing something wrong. Oh, I'm feeling stressed. That means this plan isn't working. Those kinds of things too. So thank you for bringing attention to all of that. I think it's so important. And again, to remember, we have to get ourselves. It is counterintuitive, and that's part of the problem in the culture we're in. This go, 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 go. It's like, how is this working for people? I mean, there are studies out right now, and there are countries that are starting to utilize the fact that working 32 hours a week is healthier and more beneficial and more balanced. And actually, people are more successful because they feel rested. They feel clear-minded. We've gotten this idea that anything less than a 40-hour work week is unacceptable or not working hard. And it's working hard doesn't mean you're working well. And you said something like that earlier. Those things aren't necessarily the same. So having that, you talk a lot about balance, having that balance, filling your life with a variety of things that nourish you and fill you up, actually are what lead to being the best you in all the spaces you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to do that when you are super overloaded and you have too much on your plate. So when we talk about stepping out of the overwhelm in the moments, also understanding that if you have way too much on the go, it's very natural you're going to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with you. I did a workshop and a big takeaway someone took away that they thought was just blew their mind. They're like, it's not that I'm bad at time management. I have too much on the go in the first place. And that's why I'm having a hard time with it, to just give yourself permission. I think, especially as women, we can do this to say oh no, I'm not going to do all of this. Yeah. I'm not going to try to do it all. What are the things that matter more? And when I talk about saying no, it's saying no so that you can say yes to those things that matter more. And so, because when we have too much on our plate, it's very natural to feel overwhelmed. And when we're in that place, and that's the thing, when we're run down, overwhelmed, feeling exhausted, it's way easier to slip into the more worry and more guilt and feeling more overwhelmed. And so just understanding that, to go, okay, I'm going to do these things that help me. Because I think too, sometimes if we get in that downward spiral with our thoughts, we can think something's wrong with me. It's like, nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
What do you really need? What can help right now? Even, what do you need to take off your plate or care about less?
Yeah.
That can make a big difference. And then to your 30-hour work week, I'll just also add, there's a lot of good research with that. Because again, when we feel better, we perform better and all that, people also make better decisions with how they use their time.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And all these dang meetings that we're in that aren't necessary.
Yeah. And I love a good meeting, and there's a lot that are not good or valuable or focused.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it's like having the meeting, but using the time well in there and really determining whether meetings are necessary. I mean, I hear this from people all the time. I'm like, I don't have time to do my own work because I'm in meetings all day. Okay. How many of those meetings do we really have to have or be in? Are some of those meetings you can let somebody else on your team handle? Do you need to say yes to that meeting? And we're going to come back to that in a minute, because I've got thoughts about that around the values and why conversation. But before that, this has really become a space where you have learned to really support yourself and other women in showing up unapologetically with this belief system, knowing this works. Talk to me about, you talked about it a little bit earlier, but you got to a point where you realized, wait a minute, not only is this working for me, but I can help other women with this too. And to me, that is very much women helping women show up unapologetically. So talk to me about that transition where you realize, hold on, I'm going to leave this space in corporate America and go over here and do this, because not only is this good for me, this is good for women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, a funny story with that. When I left my corporate career, I did not know what I was going to do. I just had my intuition said, there's something different. I didn't know what it would be. I didn't know I had an aspiration to start my own business. And I just knew it wasn't what I was doing. And so then when I left, and I was really, again, fascinated by this question of how do we be our best, even with all the demands and expectations, and trained with that and started coaching and working with people. And that's where it was, and I helped people with a lot of different things, communication, leadership, resilience. There was this common thread through all of it. And over the years, I've been, I really want to help women to be more balanced in their life. And when I say balance, it's whatever that looks like for you. Having more harmony, having more time and energy for what really matters to you, to be able to excel in your work and be present with your family. Take care of yourself too. Like, as I started working with different people, I was just so drawn to that. And you could see a lot of people struggling. Like, what I struggled with 10 years ago, you still see it today, even more so. And so this is there. And so just realizing like, hey, I can really help people with this. And people want to do it. I think a lot of times people know they want something different or better for themselves, or don't want to feel like crappy shape. Not sure how to.
Yeah. And they're just overwhelmed by the thought of like, I know I need this, but I don't even know where to start.
Or even, even that, what will people think? And that's a big part, is like feeling more confident in your choices, because there will always be more to do. There will always be opinions. There will always be, like, you can keep yourself busy, no problem. And so instead of letting all these, what does other people think, or what are all the things I could do, coming back to what are your values? How do you want to live your life? What's really important to you and those priorities, and getting in tune with that. To then help guide your choices. And I still today, like you said at the start, walking your talk, I'm certain I would be a burned out business owner. And I would say yes to too many things if I did not bring that intention to go, okay, I could do this, but this doesn't really align with how I want my life to look like with my family, or what are my priorities in my work. And so that's for anyone listening, is there will always be more you can do. Always. And so getting more in tune again with your own values, your own boundaries, priorities, how you want to live your life, and let those decisions start to come from that place. You stay more aligned with what you really want and the life you want to live. And it also gets easier to turn down some of the volume on the guilt and the worry, because you're making a choice that is more right for you and aligned for you. And that was a big thing when I started this, and even staying with it today, is when I left at 5, I wasn't, I got to hit my 5 p.m. boundary. It was, why am I doing this? I want to be present with my family. I don't want to feel like crap each day. And everybody needs to connect to their own reason why. Because that needs to be bigger than staying with the way things are.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Where you said it's uncomfortable, it's also uncomfortable how you're operating now.
Absolutely. Yes. And unhealthy. Yeah. It's not sustainable. And so many times people go farther than you do, and they get to an actual health crisis because it just really isn't sustainable. They can't do it that way anymore. So, I mean, it's so important to remember that. You said a couple really important things, and this is going to go really nicely into the importance of setting and coming back to your why and your values. Look at your calendar. what on your calendar is not in alignment with those values, with that why, whether it's your why for your work, your why for your family, your why for your self-care and your health. So many times we can look at our calendars and real quickly be like, that's not in alignment. Does it either need to go away, or is there someone else that can handle that? And that helping you, be using that as a guide, as a compass, that's the thing that's going to keep you committed to doing this. And you said that earlier. It's like, my why is because of the value I have for my time with my family when I leave at 5. Not simply because I said, oh, I'm not going to work 40 hours a week. I'm only going to work 40 hours a week now only. But you had a really solid value behind that. And that really helps you and guide you when you're setting those boundaries, when you're saying no to people. I talk about this a lot. We have a guest from season 4, Valerie Rivera, who says, remember that when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Make sure you're okay with that thing you're saying no to and where it hits on your value system. So you use this values and why piece a lot with yourself and in your work. And does that really help women or people when you start using that approach?
Yeah, absolutely it does. It's like a compass. It helps you guide what your choice is. And a very interesting thing that I learned when I started studying values is that where we experience the most conflict is between two of our important values. So that was huge because one of my values was family. I also had a value. I call it something different today, but back then, achievement. Like I was ambitious, I was driven, and those values were in conflict, and we experienced more stress with that. So what helps with that is one, how can you also balance that out? How can I honor this value and how can I honor that value? But being clear on what's most important overall. So when you have that tougher decision, when you're clear on what's the number one, then it's easier to go, okay, both of these are important to me. Yeah. This is more important to me. And that helps you guide your choices. And that's been huge for me, huge for a lot of women I work with, is that just helps give you, instead of feeling so torn between two things, you can look at it and go, these are both important to me. This is more important though. And so I'm going to make a choice aligned with that. And that guides every day. And that's even checking in each day with yourself. Like, are my actions aligned with my values? If they're not, don't be hard on yourself. I think that's one huge thing is being kinder to ourselves and just being able to look at that without judging and just go, okay, what's a different choice I could make that is a better reflection of my values and who I want to be? Yeah. And that frees up a lot of stress and inner conflict. And it makes it doesn't always feel easy, but it makes it easier to figure out how you move forward in a way that is right for you. Yeah.
Yeah. It just gives you that, again, it gives you that guidance, that compass. Talk to me about, did the meaning of achievement, has that changed for you since you've made these changes? Because I think sometimes we see achievement as, I work this many hours and do this many things and I'm on this many boards. And instead of looking at achievement of like, I'm using my time really well, but my life is more balanced. My life is more full. And that's an overall achievement. Has that shifted for you at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's shifted. What it used to mean to me was succeeding in my career. Like when I thought of achievement, that's what it was. Yeah. And our values can shift over time. I think I think of it as we're getting closer to the heart of what we really care about. Like we learn more of ourselves, we learn what's important to us. And so for me, what's shifted over that, it's less about accomplishing things in my career. And for me, it's more about excellence is a value of mine, is that, and what I mean by that is that how do I show up on a podcast with you or with a coaching client or even writing some piece How can I bring excellence to that? Not to be perfect, but that I really care. Like one thing when I started my business, so many people said, give a B minus, good enough effort, B minus. I don't do B minus. You know, I might do something and it turns out a B minus. I have lots of marks that way, but I don't set out for that. And so that was learning, like, this is important to me. I value this. And so how do I bring excellence? Now, something I had to learn is if I bring excellence to every single thing, then I have, you know, not enough time and energy for other things. So I had to learn, how do I prioritize what is more important that gets that level of excellence? And then what are the other things that I really do need to learn to be okay with? This is good enough. And that's okay.
Yeah. So absolutely. That grace piece, which really, I mean, goes nicely into living out of your own expectations versus others. You've talked a lot about the fact that many women struggle with this, the guilt, worrying about what other people are going to think about our decisions or how we're proceeding, how we're showing up, especially when we make a big shift. How have you been able to move into more of a comfortable space of really truly living out of those own expectations, communicating those, and being able to live less with or have guilt and those kinds of things creep up less?
Yeah. And that is, the more you get in tune with your values, how you want to live your life, what's not the 20 things that are important, like what are the top things that are important? The more you get in tune and clear on that, it gets easier to guide those choices. And so I am now really great at boundaries. I'm good at saying no. I'm good at prioritizing. I still have the worry and the guilt and the, I should do this. That still pops up each day. And so I don't know, maybe some people can turn that off. I have not been able to turn it off. So I think of it as like, how do I turn the volume down on it? How do I make sure that I'm not letting it steer me off course with what's important? And that comes with, there's even a little bit of this inner, like being willing to put your line in the sand for, this is what's important to me. This is how I want to show up in my life. And then making those daily choices that align with it. And if you, and when we're not in tune with that, it's very easy to get caught up in the busyness or comparing to others. And I still have that come up, but I can look at it and go, no, but that's not important to me. Like one thing is, as I do more public speaking, and I'll look and I'll see these other speakers and they're traveling in Canada and the US. And I go, oh, I'm not doing that. And then I have to remind myself, well, I don't want to do that. That's not my choice. I don't want to travel. And I don't want to travel over. I want to do more local. I do a lot of virtual and I'm okay with that. That fits with my life and my season of life. And for me, that was a choice to go, I'm not less than. There's nothing wrong that they do it. It's what's your own values. And then it gets easier to go, no, I'm not going to do that. And I chose not to do that because you're choosing something else for you.
That was such a great way to explain that and seeing that as a choice. It's a choice I made based on a value, but also checking in with yourself every once in a while. These frameworks are here to help us keep online. We're going to get off kilter at times. New things are going to come, opportunities are going to say, and you're going to look back like, oh, why did I say yes to that? Okay, I said yes to that. I got to honor that now. But also, learning the lessons from when you do that and trusting your like inner knowing, that inner, like you can feel when you're in and out of alignment. I really believe that. And like, so if you start feeling a little angsty, take a look at, have I allowed some things to creep in that aren't honoring my values, or have my values shifted a little bit? Values can shift in different seasons. Our kids grow up, they move out. We get different jobs. We move to different states or countries or places or homes or, whatever the case may be. We change jobs, all these different things. And so within that can come a values shift. So, taking a look at, okay, are those things still in alignment? Let me look at my calendar again. Let me sit down with myself and spend some time with myself and do an assessment. And it's good for us to do that all the time so we can stay current with that and stay true feeling, to that. And also, you talked about this earlier. We all have to figure out what it is that works for us in taking care of ourselves. And it's not going to look the same for everybody. And that's okay. I think we get very married to this idea of like, if I do the yoga and I do the meditation and I go for the walk and I do the weights and blah, 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 those things in combination may work in some ways, in some seasons, but look at, how does that fit into your value system? How does that fit into your schedule and what you've decided is important right now? Do you need to shift that? Or, sometimes it might look like I'm going to listen to my favorite music in the car after I've dropped off the kids and I'm jamming my way all the way to the gym or my workspace or back home or whatever it is. I mean, finding what it is that works for you and also understanding that may shift over time and being okay with that and throwing away this idea that it has to look a certain way.
Yeah. And prioritizing.
Yeah. Not letting it be the one that gets kicked to the curb.
There's a lot of things we could do for ourselves that are good. Like there's just so many things. Like one example that a lot of women, they have, it comes up for other people, meal planning. I want to be better at meal planning, along with exercise in my career and everything else, meal planning. I personally do not care about meal planning. I mean, I kind of, but I'm like, what is the simplest way that we can get supper on the table that does not hurt my mind and our children will eat, and I'm okay with that. But it's not that I don't care about good food and good, but I've chosen this is not where I'm going to put my time or my energy. I'm like, it is a win if there's food on the table, even though it's the same thing we've eaten every week for the last however long. And so I just see that because I think a lot of time, especially women, we can get like, I got to do all these things. And I really want to invite, like, it's not about doing it all. It's like, what are the top, 2-3 things that are important right now that you do want to put your energy and attention to, and then be okay to let go of some of those other ones or, lower your expectations on it. And I think that's really, for me anyways, I found it so freeing to be like, okay, I'm not going to be great in all these different areas, but am I showing up in the way that does matter? So for me, it's like with my husband and kids, with, being really present with people. Like that's really important to me when I'm with them, and, movement each day, not even exercise, like movement. But when you're clear on your top ones, then it's like, focus on those and be okay to, if you can do more than that, amazing. But if you feel you don't have the capacity, just be okay to let that go. And that's okay. And you're still a good mom and you're still a good worker. It's really about prioritizing what are the more important things to get your time and attention.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I would add to that, going back to, I'm with you on the meal planning. Same. If you've got this and you come in and you've got these list of these things, what's your why behind it? Make sure your why behind it is, well, because that's what so-and-so expects, or that's what my mom told me I should do, or that's what I think my kids want, or, okay, but what's your why? And what is and how important is that to you? And what is your mood like when you're doing it? I mean, I know people that love a good Sunday afternoon, cook all the meals, put them in the freezer, pull them out during the week thing. I would rather walk across hot coals than spend my Sunday afternoon meal prepping all afternoon. That's not how I want to spend my Sunday afternoon. But for some people, it works. That really frees them up. So, we're using that, get into that why behind it. Does that really align with what you value and what you care about? And make sure it's aligning with your expectation and values and boundaries, and not what you think other people want. Or maybe they do, and you need to communicate with them like, we need to come up with a plan because that's not a value for my time. So is there a way you can help me? Or can you be okay with this other thing? I mean, that goes back to that good communication you talked about earlier. And clearly communicating and clearly working through and making sure everybody's being honored. But you can't just sometimes But don't just keep doing something because you think it's expected, but it doesn't align with you, and not have any communication about it either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Okay. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves. And this goes back to like, we're not trying to be perfect. We're not, decide those areas that excellence really matters. And what are those areas that you can release and not put that kind of, pressure on yourself all the time. But that can be difficult as we go through different seasons of our life. We make different decisions. We are impacted and respond in ways sometimes we don't love, sometimes we do. Circumstances happen, sometimes we love them, sometimes we don't. So getting okay with all of our layers, all of our pieces that make us up, and getting at a real peaceful place with that. Talk to me about your layers journey with yourself and how that informs how you're able to help others with that.
Mm-hmm. So for one thing I'll say as a mantra for me, my layer that I go into, a mantra these days is be present, not perfect. That really guides me. And yeah, I think we have these different layers and we learn and we go through different seasons of life. For me, a big one has been over the last 3 years or so is my mom passed away 3 years ago, very suddenly. She was 64. It was one of those times where I feel like I walked my talk and that I was juggling way more, taking care of her, traveling to a different city each day to be there, still doing some work. But the old me would have burned myself out and run myself down. And I definitely was on the out of balance side. But I was, okay, I have 3 hours this morning. Mm-hmm. What's most important for my work? What do I need to do to make it count? And then the afternoon I'd go be with her. And so it was, I talk about how our energy is like a gas tank. And a lot of times we operate on empty. For me, what I encourage is like, you might not always be on your full tank, but never get below your half. Like what are those warning signals at your half? And so for me, the old me would have operated on empty through that. And then I wouldn't have been present with people. Then I would have been more short patience with people. Because impatience is often a cue when we're out of balance. And so I never got below my half. I still did those self-care. I did those little things each day because I knew it was going to help me go through that harder time. But for me, that was a time that it was tough, but what really came out of it, or kind of my next layer was really about how do I grant myself more grace? And because I think a lot of times before that, I still did a lot of really good things. What we talked about today, like stepping out of overwhelm and turning down the worry and guilt, boundaries, and saying no, did a lot of that. I still carried a lot of this pressure that I wasn't, it's this sneaky kind of hard on myself. I never had words that called me down. I was never that person that was like, you suck. That never came through my head, but I had this sneaky kind of hard on myself where I had these high expectations and pressure. And then if I wasn't living up to it, I would be harder on myself. So kind of my next layer of growth since then has been, how do I let go of some of that and appreciate more what I am doing and how I am showing up, and that, be even kinder to myself and grant grace when need. And to do that even came with being okay to like have some more alone time or I think I learned, how do I meet my needs even more than I did before? And let go of some more of those shoulds. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that I think we kind of use it's not about being perfect and doing it all at once. It's like we continue to evolve and we grow. And that's really been a big thing. How do I meet my needs more? How do I let go of some more of that pressure and grant myself some more grace? And that's been very interesting doing. And I feel like I'm in a really good place now. I think for a while with that, I had to remind myself of that every day. And that's okay. And I think one thing, anytime trying to people are trying to make change, they go, oh, I'm trying to worry less about what people think. And then you keep worrying and you go, oh, I suck at this. I'm not good. I can't do this. It's like, no.
Yeah.
You notice that's a good thing. And then that's an opportunity to go, well, no, well, how do I want to show up? How do I want to think about this? How do I want to be kinder to myself? And that's how you build that, inner layer guidance. Like that's how you internalize what you're trying to do. And so I had to remind myself each day, and I feel like it's finally more internalized now. So that's, I think, to your question of moving through that, it's like I can look at different seasons of my life or different stages of my life where like, oh, this is what I learned here. Or I learned boundaries. I learned how to, be more present. And for me, this last season has really been, how do I meet my needs more and be kinder to myself and grant myself more grace along the way?
That was a great explanation of that. I really like that take on it, and that sneaky way of not being so kind to yourself. I wholeheartedly relate to that. It's those little, and I had somebody bring this up to me yesterday, and they're like, you're constantly looking how you can evolve and grow and be better and heal more. But how many times do you acknowledge your wins? How many times do you just say, gosh, I did that really well today, or I showed up really well there? You're not saying, oh, I showed up badly, I should have done more. You're not saying that, but you're always looking for how, okay, that happened, but what about this? How many times do you just sit down and just acknowledge your wins? I'm like, and I think that's that sneaky that you're talking about, where we don't just like, oh yeah, I did. You know what? This was a challenging season, and I really learned how to show up well for myself through this. I really learned how to meet myself where I was and give me what I needed in the moment. I learned how to recognize when I got to the half tank. But yeah, it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think that's something that we're all guilty of. We talk about, a lot of times you hear about the self-talk, and some people are like, oh, I don't really, noticeably have any of those words going through my head. Okay, but are you constantly looking for ways to improve? Not that that's not important, but don't miss the wins and the acknowledgments of how you're showing up well and what you've learned along the way. So I love the way you presented that. Thank you so much. That was really good. All right.
And I will add with that super quick is that I was really good for the last, I never used to be, but I would look at the wins each day for years. It's like, what are the 3 wins? And so that was good. What is it good? What are the wins? But there was always, like you said, this, I could have done that better. Or I still have to do that. And so, so there's the wins in doing it and still like, and being kind to yourself along the way too, and granting grace as well. And so it's that balancing it out. But the wins, and that if you're somebody who's listening and you end each day going, I didn't get this done, I didn't do enough, you want to be looking at your wins. Like ideally we look at our wins every day, but like the days that I get done and I feel, I didn't really accomplish what I set out to, I will stop and be like, what were the wins today? What did I do? How did I show up? Personal, professional. And the more you do that for yourself, you do start to shift your attention. And then, but there's still that, especially if you're ambitious and driven, I think we can always we keep putting the bar higher. And so it's like, and maybe it's like, okay, maybe I won't hit the bar, and just being okay with that. Like, here's what I am doing, and here's how I'm showing up. And
well, and I think too, on those days that you look at the list at the end of the day, you're like, nothing got checked off. Okay, but what happened? Days are unexpected. Did you get to a point where I just didn't have the energy today, so I decided to take a rest and fill my cup instead and allow myself that time and space because I knew I didn't have the capacity for this. That's a win.
That's totally a win. Absolutely.
And I think societally, we haven't been trained to think that way. So we really have to really be conscious of that and that's something that I'm working on right now. But I love the way you presented that. And that's a really actionable way. And it doesn't, not every day has to have, you know, these are the things that went really well, and these are the things that I want to do better. Sometimes just sit with, especially those days where you didn't get anything on the checklist, just sit with what went well, and allowing yourself the flexibility for the unexpected to come up, and allowing yourself space to treat that and respond to that in the moment, like you talked about earlier, meeting ourselves in the moment where we are with what
Yeah.
we need.
Yeah.
Such an important piece of this. Okay, thank you so much. That was so good. All right. In living out F.E.E.L, finding empowerment, embracing layers, you have really done this on your journey, and it has an impact. You decided that I am living life way out of balance. I am not giving the energy to my relationships that I want to. Talk to me about the impact that making these shifts has had on your relationship with yourself, but your relationship with these people and others as well in general, as you've done these shifts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, probably the biggest, hugest change is I feel like really present in my life and with people, where it used to be rushing from one thing to the next. And, you know, sometimes I'd be physically present, but I wasn't mentally present. And so that's really a big thing, I would say. And so, and I mean, I had good relationships with my husband and kids too, even when I was burning out, but I wasn't showing up in the way I wanted. I was more impatient. I was more grumpy. And so I feel like that's a big shift. I can remain calm. I can remain patient. Yes, there's still moments where I don't, but that's been a really huge shift. And I feel like that's really helped my connection with my husband and my kids, especially now that my kids are teenagers. I find they're more physically demanding when they were toddlers, and now it's more mentally. So that's one big thing is I often think about how I'm really grateful I learned how to do some of this, because I think it would be a lot more challenging right now to not be present and not, you know, be able to like calm the worries and stuff. So that's a big thing. Yeah. Yeah. And then, you know, I think just other areas, I mean, even like where my mom got sick is like being able to be there and show up and drop other things so I could be there. And even you and I, when we originally had this booked, and this kind of ties to what you were just talking about, is that sometimes we can have the best plans for our week and then things change and unexpected things. And so you and I had it booked. And then just before, I got a call that my grandma, who is my mom's mom, so I've been doing a lot with her over the last few years because I had stepped in for my mom and that she was not doing well and probably end of life. And I sent you a note, and I think we still have the I can do it, because I had the time. I wasn't able to leave to go see her for a bit. And so I told you, hey, I can still do this if I need to. If you can reschedule, that would be great. And you were kind and gracious, and we rescheduled it. And I went to be with her, and I cleared my schedule, and she passed away that night. Where I think before, not because I didn't care, but I just would have been so jam-packed and been like, I'll go on the weekend. Sometimes we don't get that. So being present for those moments that matter. But even last week, like I found I took a lot of time off with grief and needed some more rest, and the should still came up. I should work. I should do this. And I had to dismiss that and be okay with what I did in my week and going, that's the win. That's the win, to go, okay, I gave myself space when I needed it, even though I had these other things that I wanted to do. And I think just that makes such a difference as you can learn that and kind of ride the waves a bit. I think there's also this expectation we should be the same each day,
I know,
each week. And especially as when, you know, our energy flexes and our best looks different days. And the more we can just be kinder to ourselves and grant ourselves grace and honor what we need, it's like you can, you know, honor that and then get back to focusing on those other things that are important too. So, you know, being present was a big thing, and that really helped my connection relationships. And then I think just being there for those moments that matter more, where I think before I kind of missed a lot of those moments because I was moving so fast.
Yeah. Well, and I think something too, your kids are going to remember that you made that shift. That's a great example for them. And for them to remember in their lives as they get older and they're faced with decisions, they're going to remember that moment and that time. Maybe not the way you think, but I can tell you, having experienced something similar in our relationships, when it was my husband that decided to make the shift to be more present and be around more. And it was when our kids were kind of in that early to mid elementary age. They remember that. They're in their 20s. My oldest is 30 now. They remember that made an impact. That's such a good thing to see. It's like, you can go down a road and you can realize it's not working and you can make a shift and it's okay. And that's a good thing because you met yourself where you were and you honored yourself in that and you honored your relationships in that. And that is every bit is an important lesson for them to get. And you lived in your integrity. You didn't just say, hey, guys, I'm going to make these shifts. They saw you do it. You honored that. And I think that we sometimes underestimate the impact that piece has because our kids are watching us all the time. And they're watching to see if our words and our actions line up earlier than we realize. So I want to, say to you that that was an important shift and they'll remember that. So I think that that's another area we don't give as women, we don't give ourselves the win for. Like, no, I didn't have to, but I chose to. I honored myself. I honored my values. I honored my relationships. And that was also an important lesson for those around me that they can do that too. So good on you. And thank you for that. And I think those lessons are also important. All right. We're down to the end here to our rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Alone time. Cup of coffee, I love, gives me lots of joy. Going outside for a daily walk, watching a sunrise, nature fills me up. And then just really being present with someone in like a small everyday moment, nothing big grand, but just, just being really present and enjoying a regular moment that fills me up.
Great. Okay. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Ooh, good question. I want to feel energized, centered, light, calm, and excited.
Well, that's a good one. All right. Stacey, tell people where they can find you. You have a book out now. It's been out a little over 6 months now, I think. People can work with you. You do coaching. Share with people all the ways that they can find these resources with you. And this will also be on our website on embracinglayers.com on the resources page. But take a moment and share that with our listeners.
Yeah. So, if this connected with you, resonate with you, my book, Your Balanced and Bold Life, Work Less, Live More, and Be Your Best. It's available on Amazon, online bookstores. And then also, I just released the audiobook of it. So if you feel like you're too busy or don't have time to sit down and read a book, you can listen to it. And so that's a really great resource. I share stories so you don't feel alone, some good advice and tips, but it's also written a way so you can figure out what works for you. Because again, we're all different. And you can also go to my website, staceyolson.ca, and can find out more. I do coaching and do speaking and team workshops and stuff in this space. And then too, I'd love to hear from people. So if you just want to share something you took away from today or a question on your mind, send me a note on there. As far as social media, I'm on a few different platforms. LinkedIn is where I hang out the most and what I prioritize the most. So if you're on LinkedIn, connect with me there too.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time today. This was such a great conversation. I knew you were going to have so much to offer because you're really living by these talking points too. And this framework, women, put this framework in your life. Ask yourself these questions. Honor yourself in this way. Make the space to take care of you, to know where your values lie and where you want to give your time so you can show up as your freshest, most authentic, full self in all the spaces you inhabit. And Stacey's talked about that so beautifully today. And we're all worthy of that. And we all deserve to live the life that we were authentically created to live. And it doesn't need to be exhausted and strung out and irritable and trying to do all the things all the time. That is celebrated in our culture in a way that is not honoring to our health and wellness and doesn't allow us the space to really show up well in all the places and spaces we inhabit. And so thank you so much for your work in this space. I love how women, we are really good at taking the things we've learned and applying those lessons and then wanting to share them with other people. And that is what you've done here. So thank you for that. And the resources you provide, so appreciative. It's doing this work together that helps us create a better way of life for all of us. And so thank you so much for that and your time today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. All right. Take good care of yourself this week, ladies. Utilize these resources. Check your values. Check your calendar. Are you in alignment? Are you making space for yourself? Don't make yourself last. Put yourself first so you can show up the way you want to in all your spaces. Take great care and have a great week. Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the F.E.E.L podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support. And engage with this framework in written form, with your journal, or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places you can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you and having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.